Assalamu alaikum, and a very warm welcome to episode 3 of the Sam Martin Burr Show. This is a show that I host on my podcast and my YouTube channel every single Saturday to answer your questions about absolutely anything to do with learning the Arabic language. Usually there's something to do with learning Arabic texts, but they don't have to be. But they usually are because I believe in something quite simple in my teaching of Arabic, and that's that from the very beginning we should grant students access to Arabic texts, which are, in my opinion and the opinion of our community, the most beautiful part of learning the Arabic language. So I believe in giving students access to those from day one. So on the YouTube channel and the podcast, you'll see lots of Arabic text walkthroughs and stuff like that, where we do walkthroughs of Arabic stories and poems and historical texts and the Quran and Hadith and stuff like that. So that's the kind of thing that we do. So let's get into the question for today. The question is, how can I learn Arabic for free? That'll be the question for today. Before I answer it, I want to thank our patrons as well. We have some patrons who support on the Patreon, Sam Martin Burr /Patreon, where there's an opportunity to support the podcast and the YouTube channel and everything that we do. So that obviously goes a really, really long way. People who contribute from as little as £3 a month to £120 a month. You guys are amazing. May Allah bless you guys. I want to thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart, and invite anyone else among you who wants to get more out of the work that I do to go over there and check it out and see if there's something we can do for you. So how can one learn Arabic for free? So firstly, you can, right? Like that's the first thing. You can learn for free. Millions of people do it. They're called children in Arabic-speaking families, right? So like they learn Arabic for free, right? But I think something kind of ironic that I would say for us adults learning for free is that learning for free comes at a price, which is kind of ironic, really. It sounds like it's a joke of some kind, but you can learn for free, but it does come at a price. So if we think about how do children learn for free, right? Well, they learn for free because they have an entire environment manufactured around them and a brain in their skull that's primed for learning a language. So they kind of can compensate for not putting out anything with an immense environment around them and a programming to learn a language in that environment, right? So if we want to learn for free, then we kind of need to recreate that in many ways. We kind of need to get the support. We need to have the mindset. We need to have the amounts of time. We're going to need to put ourselves in a position where we try things out and stuff in order to be able to acquire the Arabic language for free. So like I talked in the first episode of this show about this kind of quadrant that I talk about, where if you want to achieve any kind of goal, you need to be putting in something in one of these 4 factors, okay? So one of them is attaining resources. If you want to learn for free, this one will score very low. You'll score very low in this particular part of the quadrant, right? Because you want to learn for free. Right, like you can't buy books or buy courses or pay for teachers or anything like that. So this is going to score very low. So you're going to need to compensate for that with the other 3 things. Okay, you're going to need to compensate for that with hard work, right? Well, by hard work, I mean how many hours you put in a week, right? And in fact, you'll need to compensate extra because usually people's work ethic increases by paying a teacher, right? Like when you part with money, you actually have an incentive to get something out of your money, and students usually work harder. But if you're not willing to do that, then you will need to put it upon yourself to work extra hard and put more hours in a week. You'll also need to have a realistic expectation for amount of time, right? With a teacher, you might learn Arabic in a short amount of time. Like the students on my program, I can have students who learn with me 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 or whatever. I can have them graduate in like 3 or 4 months. But students who learn on their own, on average, take about a year to 18 months. Like, it might be like triple the amount of time, right? But so without a teacher, but so you're likely to take longer without paying. You're likely to have to work harder without paying, and then also talent as well. Like some people, if you're not willing to put your hand in your pocket and invest a little bit in your learning, you'll need to be an incredibly talented linguist. Like if you've already learnt a language before, this is another big factor. Like if you've already learnt a language before, you're going to score very highly in the talent part of the quadrant. Right? So you can maybe afford to not spend any money on learning Arabic. If you're very talented, you're willing for the timeline to be quite long, and you're willing to put in a lot of work every week. So so this is what I mean by saying that you can learn Arabic for free, but it comes at a price. Like those other things come at a big price. And something I want you to kind of think about when you answer this question is, I want to challenge the question a little bit. Like when you have to pay the price of those 3 things, do you really need to learn for free? Or do you really need to learn in a short amount of time? Or do you really need to learn in a way which is actually realistic for you to put those hours in a week? Or do you really need to learn in a way that's realistic for you in terms of your language learning ability, right? Like, let's say, for example, if you're not a very gifted linguist, it is what it is, not everybody is. Do you know what I mean? If you're not an especially gifted linguist, it might not be realistic for you to learn on your own. If you don't know what it looks like to actually go through the stages of mastering a language, but yeah, you want to learn for free, you might be in trouble, right? That might be challenging, right? But so that's kind of me challenging the question a little bit. That's me saying, like, look, you can learn for free, but it comes at a price in other ways, right? And on reflection of that, maybe challenge yourself a little bit, because, like, do you really not have any money? Like, do you really not have anything that you could invest in your journey to some way to make it easier for you? Like, this isn't, like, as a person who makes my living from people paying, I'm not saying from that perspective to kind of protect myself and my work. Like I put out loads of content for free. Like, you can access loads of stuff for free, right? But I think for a lot of students, it is actually the wisest thing to do, is actually to invest a little bit of money into a teacher that you trust, whoever it is, or resources that you trust and that you enjoy, whatever that is. And, you know, if you're in the situation where you are spending money on, you know, Starbucks every day, and you are spending money on, you know, eating out all the time, and you are spending money on other stuff, but you're saying, no, not Arabic though. I will spend money on everything else, but not on Arabic, then maybe revisit that a little bit. Okay, so that's, like, I feel a little bit bad answering that particular way, because I'm sort of listening to your question, and then I'm like, yeah, but the question's silly, right? Yeah, and kind of like dodging the question a little bit by saying, well, maybe you should pay some money. But if we're going to say, right, let's say all of that said that I've just delivered to you, right? If we say, okay, all of that, I still don't have any money. Let's say, like, you know, because whatever, right? I don't know your situation. Might be the case you're not working, might be the case that you're too young to work, whatever it might be, right? How would one learn for free, right? How would we have maybe a blueprint for that? So what you would need to do is spend a little bit of time in the beginning just learning around Arabic. I'd give yourself like a week to learn around Arabic. What do I mean by that? Learn about what resources are available. Maybe just do some foraging. What free PDFs are available, what videos on YouTube are available, what podcasts are there for learning the Arabic language. Like, just all these kinds of different kinds of resources that might be out there for you to consume. So, like, and create a little file on your computer or whatever of just all the free resources that you have that you can possibly get available. And then just kind of familiarize yourself with what's going on in Arabic, right? Like, maybe read the Wikipedia entry of Arabic, right? On Omniglot, they'll have an Arabic language profile. Maybe on the Lang Focus channel as well. I think it's Paul actually who's the host of that channel. He'll have an Arabic profile, right? So all of that stuff's free, right? So that's what I mean. Like, get some context and just some familiarity around Arabic, because a big hurdle that students often encounter in the beginning is, like, they expect Arabic to behave like the other languages they've heard of before, or maybe they learned some Spanish at school or whatever, or they learn whatever at school, right? Like, and they kind of expect Arabic to fit into that mold, but it's worth briefing yourself in whatever way possible on what Arabic is like. And then, depending on your goals, I mean, if your goals are to have conversations, consume resources which encourage you to have conversations, like the Arabic Between Your Hands series, the Al-Arabiyyatu Bayna Yadayk, the Arabic Between Your Hands series. I believe you can probably get the PDFs online for free somewhere. I don't know, I haven't looked, but like maybe you can. Maybe you can get those somewhere, because I believe that there's quite a lot of dialogues and stuff inside of those books. And, you know, and even something amazing as well, which I've mentioned in other episodes of this show, is like the colloquial series on their website. They've got like the downloadable audios for free. I find it mind-boggling. Like, it's not that easy to navigate, because you'll have to download like 2 zip files of like hundreds of little audios. But like the fact that they're free, but the book is the bit you pay for, like, it almost feels like it should be the other way around. I know why they do that, because it's really difficult to protect like audio content. It's so easy for people just to share it with their friends and everything. And I get why they do that, but it's just so valuable. It's amazing that you can get like audio resources like that from like the colloquial. If you Google, I'm not sure exactly what the link is. Maybe I'll try to find it for you and I'll put it in the description below. If I can find the link for the colloquial series, for their free audio resources for their Gulf Arabic, their Levantine Arabic, their Egyptian Arabic, and their Standard Arabic, because they probably have those. If I can find those, then I'll put them in the description below, or in the show notes if you're listening on the podcast. Okay, so collecting some resources and then choosing resources which fit your goals. And then then when you're at a certain level, maybe find a speaking partner or someone who can help you, because you can find that for free, usually in exchange for your language, right? Like if you speak, especially if you speak English or French or just a very like commonly learned language, you can go to loads of Facebook groups that have, speaking partner exchange and stuff like that. And you can find people who are really serious, like it's not just, it's not just, people messing around. I'd say if you're a woman, by the way, just put a condition that you'll only speak to women. Look, I hate it like this. Like I hate it when people say negative things just broadly about men. But like, look, I'm in a few of these groups, right, for like language exchange and stuff, because I dabble in various languages and stuff. And as I mentioned in another episode, like I learned Turkish for a little while beginning of this year. I found a speaking partner on one of those, and like, I mean, any woman who goes on there and like is looking for a speaking partner, I know that their inbox is full of like 15 unsolicited, creepy messages from men. And it breaks my heart that that's the case, because I think men are alright. Like, I'm fighting the corner of men a lot of the time, but it proved me wrong. Anyway, so that would just be an advice of mine. If you're a woman, maybe just say you're only looking for a female speaking partner. Or else, unfortunately, we live in a world where it's open season on your inbox. Where was I? Okay, so at that point, right? At that point, they have a speaking partner. You'll probably have to exchange your language for their language. When you're at a certain state, like it's really important to be at a certain level before you do that. Because otherwise you'll just end up speaking English to them the whole time. It's likely that their level of English, just given the world that we live in and the kinds of people that are on those kind of groups, it's likely that their English will be better than your Arabic. So it'll kind of end up dominating the conversation being in English. But if you get to a real legit level, then you can do that. Some other things I think I can probably recommend, some other things you can do is actually our friends Arabic Workshop, arabicworkshop.com. If you go to their website, they have a free version of their software. I would actually really recommend you pay for it just because it's so good. But oh yeah, sorry, I forgot. We're not paying for anything, but they have a free version of it that you can access. I'd also recommend, if you're into learning with flashcards, that you use Anki with a K, and Quizlet. I'm not really into flashcards, but so many of our students are, so I really need to mention it to you guys that you can benefit from that as well. So yes, that's what I'd say. And then so there's kind of like a blueprint, right? Like I'd kind of, if you insist on learning for free, some things that you could do. I mentioned some resources that you could do to kind of learn around Arabic, to just prepare yourself, right, a little bit for embarking upon Arabic. The next thing is forage for free resources. The next thing, actually, which I didn't mention, I'd insert a step into here, actually, as part of the blueprint before you do anything else. Learn the script, please. Whatever your goals are, please learn the script. Like, I've got a free course, actually. I've got a free course that you guys can all have. It's the Arabic script bundle. I'll leave a link in the description below where you get a hold of that. Although we're changing the links to that soon, so try it anyway, inshallah. And if you're watching this after the 25th of September 2021, we'll have moved websites. So if you're watching this after that and the link below isn't working, then please just comment underneath and let me know, and I'll make sure that it's updated there. But I've created a free course for the Arabic script called the Arabic script bundle, which you guys can have, and it comes with bonus resources and stuff too that you can print out to practice your Arabic script. And there's also another free resource I have called The Best of Stories, which is a little resource, a little course that I wrote after my first son Yusuf was born. And it's kind of dedicated to him, really. It's a little 6-lesson course where I give you the grammar and the vocab that you need to access the first page of the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. And that's a free little course as well. So there, actually, I'd forgotten about those two, but there's actually 2 free courses that I have as well. So you guys can have those if you want to learn for free. So that's what I'd say, right? Learn around Arabic, forage for free resources, learn the script using whatever, right? Well, whatever you're comfortable with, but I'll give you a free resource as well if you want to learn something from me. And then over those resources that you foraged, pick ones that suit your goals, right? Whether you want to go into more speaking or you want to go into more reading texts. If texts are your thing, then I might be your guy, right? But if learning, dialects or whatever, you might want to go somewhere else, or for learning specifically for the you want to go very laser focused on the Quran, it might be something else. But those are some things that I would say, and then whatever direction you go in, whichever goals you have for learning Arabic, stop at a certain point and get a speaking partner or someone who can help you. Because another cool thing is that speaking partners themselves have loads of different interests and stuff too. And a cool thing about these groups is you can just tell people what your interests are. So like if you are a person who's interested in chatting about martial arts, so you're interested in chatting about poetry, or you're interested in chatting about Arab food, right? You can put what your interests are, so you actually have a topic for conversation, because that's something I really recommend for anybody who uses a speaking partner. Like, it's so easy to turn up and be like, let's speak Turkish. You've got to talk about something. You've got to have an idea of what you're going to talk about, right? Like, too often, like I've even mentioned this before about people who go to the Arab world to go and study Arabic. Too often people get really entrenched and well rehearsed in one conversation. Like, I'm speaking from experience as well for me. Like, when I was studying in Palestine, I got so good at telling people the story of how I became a Muslim, because that's what everyone wants to know. Like, it's the conversation that I had with everyone, right? So like ask me to tell you about how I became a Muslim. It's like perfectly articulated story, like well rehearsed story, but it's like, you know, like, what's your opinion on the economy? Flat. Like, so I really had to kind of go out of my way. Like, I'd be like in the morning, I'd be like, look, I need to have a conversation about politics today. So I'm going to learn some vocab for politics, and then I'm going to go into the market, and I'm going to try to have a conversation with someone about politics. Or like, I'm going to try to talk to like a soldier or something. I'm trying to talk to somebody who would know about that thing that I wanted to talk about, because sometimes you really need to manufacture the variety of conversations that you're having. Yeah, you need to kind of take that responsibility upon yourself a little bit to make sure that you are creating a circumstance under which you'll be forced to have the variety of conversations that you want. So that's some advice on making use of speaking partners as well. So like, yeah, so there is kind of a blueprint that I've given you there on learning Arabic for free. Like, that if you insist on it being for free, but I feel like in this episode I've also kind of challenged some things about that, about learning for free, because sometimes you might just be being tight. Like of all the things we invest in and we spend our money in, why not support a local Arabic teacher or something? Like, why not spend a little bit of your money on something like that? Like, when it's something so important, you know, and when we think we don't think about how to have our car fixed for free. We don't think about how to, like, things that are really important. Like, if you get your car fixed for free, you're probably going to be in some trouble. If a mechanic says they'll fix your car for free, they've probably got something up their sleeve for you, right? Or if you I don't know, you go to the dentist to have a root canal surgery done. Ugh. I've got a real phobia. I hate that. I'd rather be circumcised again than have a root canal surgery. I'm entirely serious. Like, ugh. Oh, that's a digression, that is. If there are any dentists out there who will be nice to me, message me, please, because I need some help. I might have a problem with my relationship with dentists. But okay, let's say I meet a dentist, and the dentist, root canal surgery, come around the back of my garage, I'll do it for free. I'd be a bit wary about that. I'd be wary about someone saying they can deliver a root canal surgery for free to me. So with things that are really important and could result in harm in some way, we should think about investing in the right stuff for Arabic as well, in order to make sure that we achieve what we want successfully. And why am I saying things to you about my phobia of dentists and not wanting to have a root canal surgery? Anyway, it might be very late, so that's why I digress. So I think that's probably everything. Oh no, it's not actually. There's one other thing I wanted to say. This is a well-known expression which is often said by marketers who are selling a social media marketing course for £997 or an ebook or something. This is often said by people like that, that the people who pay attention. Okay, like I've paid for training in the past before for the kind of online work that I do and stuff, and they'd often say things like the people who pay attention. Right, and there's some real truth in that I've noticed, and in both my experience, whereby, like, I've had students who have paid me, teach me something, they've enrolled in the Arabic in 60 Steps program, and the fact that they've paid means they pay attention, right? Like, because I've put the same information out on my YouTube channel and my podcast. There's almost the same information, right? But because they've paid, they pay attention more. It's a really interesting thing that when people have invested a certain amount to do something, they take it a lot more seriously. And in Muslim history, where people have sought knowledge, Like if people came to Imam Shafi'i or Imam Ahmed or whoever to go and learn fiqh or hadith from them, like the people, they wouldn't have paid necessarily, but they'd have invested hours and pain, and they would have travelled there, right? Like that would have been their investment. That would have been the equivalent of putting money into something. But now we don't do that. Like now we package things up nicely in a nice little video that's edited and, you know, and whatever, and we kind of deliver it to you. So that's sort of, that's kind of the equivalent of payment, right? Like even if we have kind of like a very idealistic and classical idea of students arriving at the feet of the scholars to learn from them, there would have been a payment, but the payment would have been the days of a walk to get there, or the payment would have been, you know, whatever. Like if you had to pay for the journey or whatever, if you came from a long way and you had to pay people to take you there on horseback or whatever, like that would have been your payment. But now when we get information, we don't take it so seriously because we're not paying for it. We almost take it for granted. But when we've invested in something, when we pay attention. Like when I first heard that, I just thought that was a way for people to monetize information that's out there for free. But in my experience, having done courses, like having paid for courses myself and having experienced it in my own students, there is a real truth to that. And when I say that, actually, like it's applicable to this podcast because it's specifically about learning Arabic for free, right? But it's applicable in terms of an investment and in payment for anything, right? Like you really cherish things when you've worked for them in any way, right? Or if you've sacrificed something for them. Like what we're talking about is with money, right? We're talking about sacrificing some of your money for something, but in whatever it is, like if you pay in something, then you pay more attention, and that's something that I do really believe in. I think we've covered quite a lot in this particular episode of the Sam Martin Burr Show. So I want to thank you all so much for coming to visit me this evening and hearing me out and being interested in my answer to one of the questions. This question actually came from TikTok. I don't remember which student in particular asked it, but it's kind of a good segue into me reminding you guys that I am active on TikTok. We talk about quite a few things over there, actually. Obviously, I'm mainly an Arabic language teacher, and most of the stuff that we do is about that, but it's very easy in TikTok to kind of be drawn into other conversations. And in my case, I'm always drawn into conversations about marriage and stuff, really. Like I've obviously been married for about 6 years, and I'm interested in I love marriage, frankly. Like I love the institution of it. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think family is a beautiful thing, and I think generally us, especially as in the Muslim community, we're losing that, which I think is kind of sad. So anyway, if you're interested in kind of more conversations like that as well as the Arabic stuff, we've got tons of that going on Patreon. Not on Patreon, on TikTok. On Patreon, we've got other stuff going on for those of you who want to learn. But yeah, that's probably everything for this episode. So I want to thank you all very much again. If you're watching this on YouTube, I would very, very much appreciate it if you would like this video and you would subscribe. That really, really helps to elevate the channel and get us in front of more students, inshallah. And if you're listening on the podcast, I want to thank you all so much as well. I think you can leave a review or a rating and stuff on iTunes, I think, if you're listening to this. But yeah, so if you could do something like that for me, I would very, very much appreciate it. It would mean the world to me if you would do that. But I think that's enough for today. So in our next episode, we're going to have another question, aren't we? So that was episode 3. In episode 4, we'll be talking about how to learn loads of vocab. There's not one person who's asked me this. This is like hundreds of people. How do I learn tons of vocab? We're going to be talking about that in the next episode of the Sam Martin Burr Show. See you then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
ولما جاء موسى لميقاتنا وكلمه ربه قال رب أرني أنظر إليك قال لن تراني ولكن انظر إلى الجبل فإن استقر مكانه فسوف تراني فلما تجلى ربه للجبل جعله دكا وخر موسى صعقا فلما أفاق قال سبحانك تبت إليك وأنا أول المؤمنين